All right. This is a ride strategy guide to Disneyland, Anaheim, California. And in this, I'm going to present a couple of routes you can take and strategies you can take. The first thing I do want to show, as you see, I have a map of Disneyland here. But the first thing I do want to show is this. This is the most popular rides with their average wait times on it. You can find a lot of different websites with this information on it, and this one was from lineq.com, useful website. But as you can see, these are the rides you want to target with your lightning lane. And again, this strategy guide is assuming you're going to have lightning lane and also that you have early theme park entrance. So just keep that in mind, because especially with the early theme park entrance, you want to try and do as many rides as possible before 10 a.m. because that's often when parks are kind of reaching their capacity. Plus, I'll share one other thing about Big Thunder Mountain that does factor into this as well shortly. But as you can see, these are the main rides here. I'll make this a little bit smaller so you can all see them all. These are kind of the top 13 rides to look for lightning lanes for. Uh, Rise Resistance will have its paid single lightning lane, so that's something you might want to consider if that's a can't miss ride for you. And so it's important to know which rides are your can't miss when you're going into your day, right? There's always it's tough to get to every single ride, and theme parks are designed, especially good theme parks like Disneyland, to make you want to see more, right? They want you coming back, right? So keep that in mind. The other thing I always say is waiting in a long line is not nearly as much of a waste of time as standing in no line deciding which ride you're going to wait for. So just keep that in mind. You do want to kind of be decisive. I'm going to show you three paths you can take, and it's totally optional. These are just suggestions. You'll want to obviously gauge your theme park day when you're there, looking at the app for ride times. But for this first line here, it will go blue, and we're gonna have this as we'll call this the Fantasyland early start strategy, right? So with this blue line here, you'll enter in. You'll you'll either want to enter when you get to Main Street. Try and get there, at least 30 minutes early if possible. If you have a stroller, you'll want to get that through security, but you want to be ready to go as soon as possible, especially taking advantage of your early entry hours. So try and get to the left side or the right side. But for this Fantasyland strategy, I am going to recommend the right side here. With this strategy, you're going to come on in here on the right side, coming up it this way. And again, it's so easy to get distracted by Main Street USA. A lot of people do it. They get distracted by taking pictures with Walt and Mickey and the castle. Do that later in the day. I've never understood making that the first thing. That is delaying you, and that is essentially you're using your early entry hours to do something that would be very easy to do throughout the rest of the day. Just take note of that, but try not to get distracted. Uh, as you're here, you want to try and keep focused on getting to your first ride of the day. So for this Fantasyland strategy, you have choices here. As you get here, either decide to go to Peter Pan's Flight or go to the Matterhorn bobsled coaster. And so if you go to the coaster, you're going to take the right here, or if you go to Peter Pan, you're going to take the left here. Either or, you're going to try and get on both these rides. But for the sake of this strategy guide, we're going to say you went to the Matterhorn first. So you go to the Matterhorn first, and again, this is two roller coasters. They do have different experiences, but they run simultaneous. But you'll want to get in one of those lines. And then here you're going to knock out as much of Fantasyland in your early entry as you possibly can. And obviously do the rides that you want to do. Manage those wait times. But if you can knock out Matterhorn's and Flight of or Peter Pan's Flight, that's a great start. After Fantasyland here, I would recommend that you come on this way towards Toontown. uh, Either go on It's a Small World now or enter Toontown and go on it when you come back out. But let's say you go on It's a Small World and try and get that done. Hopefully you're going at a good pace here, and going, Matterhorns, Flight of Passage, doing some of the other rides like Alice in Wonderland is a really popular one, also in Fantasyland. But you're essentially trying to get as much of Fantasyland done as possible in your early hours. Then you're headed into Toontown. I would recommend at the start of your day, when as soon as you can book your lightning lane. For this strategy, get the lightning lane for Mickey's Runaway Rail Train, um, or Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Sorry, tongue tied there. And you go into Toontown, check out some of the other activities, and do your fast pass there. Once you've booked that fast, I would recommend booking a Space Mountain fast pass, ideally, if you can get it within the morning still. If Space Mountain fast passes sell out to when you're in the afternoon or later, I would pivot, and I would go with either a Big Thunder or a Jungle Cruise or something like that. But that's just kind of managing your fast pass systems to try and keep you going throughout the day. Again, friendly reminder about those fast passes is once you've booked it, set a timer on your phone, because you can book another one for 2 hours after you've booked it, or if you've done that fast pass, you can book another one as soon as you've scanned it. So after you've done Toontown here, you'll come back out. Uh, you're going to be tempted to take the train here. I'm going to encourage you not to take that temptation. If you do want to take the train, it is a fun ride, but it's there's better times in the day to do it when you need like a break, because the train actually does move you to different lands in the park. It's a good time to take a break on the train because you're sitting down, and it's shaded, things like that. So you're going to come back here and come this way towards Tomorrowland, and then do your things in Tomorrowland. Hopefully, you were able to get a Space Mountain fast path or lightning lane, uh, early in the day. So do the activities you're interested to in Tomorrowland. Then you have a choice here. You can either cut across Main Street. By this time, you're probably getting towards lunchtime, so manage your food expectations, whether you want to go to back to Fantasyland or here in Tomorrowland or over in Frontierland or New Orleans Squares, my personal favorite to get lunch. But you can cut across the main area, or this could be a good time to hop on the train this way. And for this tutorial, we're going to say you hop on the train. So you go on the train, coming around, nice scenic break train here. If you get here and you need to go back to your hotel for a nap or something like that, or you want to go eat at a downtown Disney snack, then you get off the train here and you go out. If you're like, you know what, no, we're staying in the park, we want to keep doing as many rides and shows and activities as possible, then I would stay on the train and bring it over this way to New Orleans Square, and then get off here. And in New Orleans Square, Tiana's Bayou Adventure will be open in November. So that we'll manage that. And if it's a virtual queue, you'll have to get in the virtual queue, and that will kind of dictate when you do Tiana's Bayou Adventure. But you're in New Orleans Squares. You can go. I would, when you're here, check the ride times for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. There's only 2 rides there, right? You got your Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run over here, and then you got your Rise of Resistance over here. Both, I enjoy those rides a lot. But Rise of Resistance especially can have a really long queue to it. So if it's a 30-minute or less queue, might be the time to go to Rise of Resistance that way. And honestly, I would just keep an eye on it as you're here in, you know, uh, Frontierland and Adventureland, kind of in this area, and doing the different activities along this way. And eventually, you'll see, you know what? Let's go to Star Wars Land, and you come in through and check. Even if you just check out Star Wars Land, they did a great job theming it. It's a lot of fun. And so you come on through back, and it does a loop this way. And again, this might be unrealistic based on the crowds that you have that day, based on your level of energy, and if your party is up to the task. But this is one route that you can potentially take here. You can do a lot of things in one day if you do have kind of a plan going into it. And then the fireworks. Again, I always recommend having an exit strategy for your fireworks there. So we'll talk about that afterwards. But just to quickly go over my other routes there. So let me change my color up. I'll make this the purple route. So again, that blue line is the fantasy route here. The blue, or this purple one, is also going to start on the left, and we're going to call this the Tomorrowland start route. So this one, you'll come on in here still on the right side, but this time you're going straight into Tomorrowland, and you're going to make a beeline for Space Mountain right out of the way. Now, with doing this, it means you're not getting a lightning lane for Space Mountain. No, you are using your early entry hours to ride one of the premier rides. This, you can still get a lightning lane either for Matterhorn or for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Rail, Peter Pan Flight of Passage, any of the other rides. But you're coming into Tomorrowland, and a lot of people do make a mad dash for Space Mountain right away. If you have the early entry, this is advantage to you just to be part of that kind of mad dash for it. Space Mountain is a great coaster that can move a line quickly, and when you have early entry, there's it's going to be less. I'm estimating you'll probably have a 15 to 20 minute wait, even though it's your first ride of the day. But this is just one of the strategies. So then you're in Tomorrowland doing the activities you're interested in. From this, go right to the Matterhorn this way, and then you're going into Fantasyland and going to Fantasyland next. Then doing either you have a choice to do either Toontown or do Star Wars Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. For this tutorial, we're going to go to Star Wars Galaxy this way, but again, you can always pivot in your strategy based on the ride times you see in the app. But you're going into Star Wars, doing the Star Wars Rise of Resistance and Smuggler's Run coming through, and again, managing your fast passes along the way, and depending on your time with Tiana's Bayou, this might be a good option. You come along this way into New Orleans Square, into Frontierland and Adventureland, and doing the different rides and festivities. Now, in any point in time, if you're going to take the train, it's kind of interesting to take the train the entire way around in one turn. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but I would go from Adventureland back to take the train this way, and then take the train through here to Toontown. And again, you can skip the train altogether if you want, but it's a fun attraction. This gets you to the back of the park that way. So again, that's mainly prioritizing your first early entry half hour. But again, the park doesn't get to its full capacity till 10 a.m. So this is a good strategy if you really value Tomorrowland and Space Mountain, Matterhorn, and then it would go more into Frontierland. Big Thunder Mountain. This is a pro tip about it. It has 6 trains, 5 in operation at a time. However, during the morning, for the first probably hour and a half, they only start with 3 trains. So there actually is a bit of a dip that comes in its wait times because they increase the ride capacity when they add more trains to it. So something to watch for. Every now and then, Big Thunder can really crush its line, and you'll see its wait times go dramatically down. And if you're in the area, that might be worth the, that decisiveness of, oh, Big Thunder is only 20 minutes. Let's go. Okay, one last route here, and this one we're gonna go green. So this we're gonna call the Star Wars route. If Star Wars is a high priority for you, which some people it is, you are going to immediately, don't take the train. You're gonna line up here on the left side, and you're gonna come on in. Remember, don't get distracted by the pictures of Mickey and Walt at the castle. You're gonna come on in here and get through Fantasyland. Don't get distracted and go all make a beeline for either Smuggler's Run or Rise of Resistance. And you, because Rise of Resistance especially often has the longest wait time in the park. Now, Tiana's will change this. Well, that we don't have data on that, but that's going to change it. But you're doing Star Wars Land right off the get go. Make a beeline for it, and then come back around this way, and you're here into New Orleans Square, Frontierland, and then go in to Adventureland. Come back out here. I would, at this time, depending on where your lightning lanes are and if you do take this route, you'll likely want a lightning lane for Pirates of the Caribbean, Jungle Cruise, Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, something along those lines here on this side of the park. But you'll come back out this way, and probably Fantasyland's going to be pretty busy as you get into the afternoon. There's lots of strollers there, but manage your wait times. But I would go over to Tomorrowland, do your Tomorrowland activities, your Space Mountains, your Speedway, things like that, and then come back out this way towards It's a Small World, Matterhorn. Oh, yeah, It's a Small World, Matterhorn, and then coming over to Toontown. And again, this is just a idea. This is very much a guide for kind of ways you can tackle this particular park. It's a big park. It's one of the best theme parks in the world. You're gonna have a great day there, and so I just always encourage people, be decisive. If you can enjoy it, it's there's lots of fun to have, lots of great rides and shows and experiences along that way.